Hey everybody, I'm Doug, that's Connor, and this is the longest running school district audio podcast in the southwest region of the eastern Puget Sound. That's right, you're listening to the Bethel School District Presents podcast, and we have a great show for you today. We're talking about state test scores, we're talking about graduation rates, we're talking about school construction bonds, and a whole lot more, but of course, we're going to start things off with our useless trivia of the week. And Connor, you have forewarned me that you have quite the piece of useless trivia for our audience today. Take it away.
I do indeed. Let's jump right in. Did you know that only one person has won both the Army Broadcaster of the Year Award and the Department of Defense's Thomas Jefferson Award in the same year while shunning both of those prestigious Pentagon Award ceremonies? Do you know that, Doug? Something tells me you did.
Something tells me I do.
So it's true. Just over 25 years ago, my trusty sidekick, Douglas Bartholomew Boyles, was a broadcast journalist in the Army where he produced stories for the American Forces Network TV and radio. He was such a hotshot that he actually won Broadcaster of the Year for the entire Army, folks, as well as the Thomas Jefferson Award, which recognizes excellence in military and civilian broadcasting. So, Doug, we need to know, why did you shun these important Pentagon ceremonies?
Well, first, I need to know who your source is on this piece of trivia.
I'm sorry, that is an anonymous source, sworn to secrecy, but I will say his name is Ken Boyles.
That's my dad.
All right, I figured as much.
He is possibly our most loyal listener, and he weighs in just about every week on the useless trivia, so I'm glad he sent. I did not know this was coming. This is pretty awesome.
He's now a contributor as well, so
That's
thanks,
right.
Ken.
Oh, boy. Do we have to pay him now?
I think he's on the payroll officially.
So those ceremonies, I didn't shun them per se, but my son was about to be born. I was stationed in Belgium, and getting from Belgium to D.C. for 2 ceremonies while my son could be born during that time didn't seem like the best idea, and so I got special permission to skip those ceremonies, and my dad actually gave a speech at the ceremony for me.
Well, as every dad is wont to do when their son wins these prestigious awards, and very good reason, by the way, for not going to the ceremony. So we'll amend that from shunning it to reasonably not attending.
I love it. Well, I'm glad that came from my dad. That's pretty awesome. I didn't know that when I was preparing mine. Mine actually has to do with trains, and my dad is a big train guy. So here we go, Dad. This whole show's for you. Connor, did you know that back in the 1800s, towns would set their clocks by gauging the position of the sun, and this led to every major city operating on a slightly different time? In the 1800s, in North America alone, there were 144 different time zones.
That's bizarre. I had no idea. How did I not know this? What's your source? Cosmopolitan magazine, probably? That's
always a good guess. My source actually started with a Nat Geo article that I read, and then I dug into it a little bit more with the BBC. So the 144 different time zones, that's from BBC. And as railroads began to better connect cities and towns to one another, the stations couldn't keep a listing of all of these different arrival and departure times. So in 1847, in Britain, all railway companies adopted a single standard railway time across their networks. That is now known as Greenwich Mean Time.
Well, that is fascinating and useless, so thank you for that, Doug. But let's get on with our show today. We've got big topics to cover today. We're going over student data, state test scores, graduation rates, things like that. And then we're going to update y'all on our 2019 school construction bond.
Yeah, let's start with the buildings themselves, talk about those bond projects, and then let's get into what's going on inside the buildings with all that extra data.
Absolutely. And first off, as our regular listeners know, in 2019, our voters approved a bond to build new schools and fix and expand old ones. So before we go any further, as always, we want to give a massive thank you to our voters.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, voters. And this bond has funded an amazing amount of projects since 2019. I'm going to give you the list of projects that were funded by that bond. Combined, though, they have added 181 classrooms. That includes new and renovated classrooms to the district. And when the new Bethel High School and new Cedar Crest Middle School are complete, those are going to add another 107 classrooms by my math. That makes 288 classrooms total, that's a lot of classrooms. And you can find some of them in the new Catherine G. Johnson Elementary School, the new Challenger High School, Graham Kapowson High School expansion, the new Natchez Trail Elementary School, the new Expedition Elementary School, the expanded and remodeled Evergreen Elementary School, and we also did district-wide security camera improvements, obviously not classrooms, but these help with safety and security around the district. And as we know, cameras are always evolving, and so it's good to get those replaced, and safety and security is always top priority here in Bethel.
Yes, it is. And that is a very impressive list of projects. And it's also impressive how quickly and efficiently our team worked to get them done. Executive Director of Operations Paul Marquardt emphasized the district's commitment to completing projects on time and within the overall bond budget.
This is a huge celebration. If you remember back a few years ago, the massive inflation we've had, the massive setbacks and supply chain issues that we had, for our overall bond plan to be on schedule, on target, huge.
Now, there are still two huge projects underway. I mentioned them before. The new Cedar Crest Middle School, that is still in design and permitting, originally planned as a modernization and expansion under the bond. Careful planning and additional state funding are now going to allow us to fully rebuild Cedar Crest Middle School, built in, I think, 1982. They are in need of a new and modern building.
Yeah, that new 3-story building will be nearly 123,000 square feet. It'll feature 39 classrooms and have a capacity for 850 students, which is up from 700.
Construction is set to begin in summer of 2026, coinciding with Bethel High School students moving into their new building. Cedar Crest students are temporarily going to relocate to the old Bethel High School for 2 years while their school is built. It is scheduled to open in the fall of 2028.
And of course, as everyone knows, the new Bethel High School, which you can see construction videos of anytime you want on our YouTube channel, broke ground in 2024 and is scheduled to be done in 2026. At almost 300,000 square feet, the new Bethel High is a massive project. Assistant Director Jamie Gliniski said the new school is now nearly 2/3 complete.
If you drive past along 224th, you'll see that we're roughly about 80% complete on paving and sidewalks. They've got brick masonry going up. They're working on the north elevation with the brick mural. We also have both turf fields, the practice field and the football field completed.
Well, Connor, building new schools is one thing, but once they're built, our teams work hard to keep them in great shape so they can last as long as possible for our students. This past year, our teams have completed work on a number of our buildings, including projects like a roof replacement on the old Bethel High School, portable repairs at Camas Prairie, exterior paint and window replacements at Graham Elementary, interior paint at Graham Kapowson, pavement repairs at Kapowson, roof replacement at North Star, flooring replacement at Pioneer Valley, and ADA access improvements at Roy Elementary.
These aren't random projects at all. The district has a 20-year maintenance plan, so our team knows when every school in the district's getting a new roof.
For sure. I think every department in this district and all of our schools loves a good spreadsheet. And speaking of spreadsheets and data, let's talk about data. If you're listening in a place where you can access the web, you can check out BethelSD.org, go to the About Our District tab, and click on the data dashboard. You can also get there at BethelSD.org/data, and you can get really in-depth on things like state test scores and graduation rates and more.
So I've done this, and Doug, I don't think reading numbers and charts to the folks at home is going to make for really compelling audio.
Listen, one of us won the Department of Defense Broadcaster of the Year award.
Okay, let me defer to you then, I guess.
It was 25 years ago. Maybe things have changed. Listen, as everybody knows, across the country, education took a hit during the pandemic, and states are still working on getting things back up to pre-COVID numbers. One of the things Bethel is doing is looking at that data, looking for patterns, identifying subgroups that need additional supports, finding out where we can make changes to impact students in a positive way.
Well, we took a look at the nation's report card, which is mandated by Congress, and the short of it is, in both reading and math, most 4th and 8th graders in 2024 still performed below pre-pandemic 2019 levels. That's according to NPR.
And here in Bethel, Brian Lawfer, our Director of Assessment and Highly Capable Programs, said there is a lot of work going on to address those problems, including new elementary curriculum in both math and ELA.
We also are really working on strengthening our professional learning communities, making sure that we're using classroom data in the moment of that week's learning and adjusting and providing intervention for that week. So getting better and better at that. Middle school has had a math task force led by Lori Honig in our teaching and learning department, but with all of our administrators that are really being honest about mathematics achievement and working to improve that. And it's really a great group. If you ever get a chance to see that group in action. Secondary ELA, we're having an adoption this year. Special ed team and teaching and learning are working together to really strengthen our math a secondary co-teach model.
So there's a lot to look at when you visit bethelsd.org/data, and Laufer said it's much easier to see it in action compared to all the numbers. So the school board will be visiting schools in the future to focus on these academic areas and see that work firsthand.
While those test scores are an area the district is working on, one big accomplishment Laufer noted was our overall graduation rate, which hit its highest mark ever.
Right now, for the class of 2025, 91.6% of our students graduated on time in 4 years. And the next graphs just show what our rates are for a 5-year rate, which would actually be the class of 2024. They're at 91.7. The class of 23, for a 6-year rate, 92.4% of them have graduated. And the class of 2022, the 7-year rate is 90%. And that looks a little odd that it's lower. The 7-year rate is lower than our current 4-year rate. And if you go back for that cohort of kids, that class of 2022, they had a historic low 4-year rate. So that is kind of continued on as that cohort.
Yeah, that class of 2022 is fresh off the heels of the pandemic. It all circles back to that, and we're still feeling the ripple effects of those COVID years.
We are, and Laufer talked to the board about our graduation rate, what was working to educate and inspire students, but there's still a gap the district is focusing on, and we talked about it earlier this year on this show.
We certainly did, and for the class of 2024, only 45% of them went on to some sort of post-secondary education, and that's anything from 2 to 4-year colleges, trade schools, apprenticeships, or the military. So in fact, Bethel's rate for this is actually 10 points lower than the state. That's something we're taking very seriously.
And one thing Laufer is really good at is the numbers, and he broke this gap down into subgroups to look at the demographics.
Looking at this in student groups, we have a few groups who are showing less participation and enrollment in their first year after Bethel graduation. That's Native Hawaiian, Pacific Island, as well as white students actually had our lowest enrollment in post-secondary education. Some other student groups or programs. One is a really, I think, pretty dramatic one for us, that kids that earn less than a 3.0 GPA have a much less chance of going on post-secondary. So that's something that's becoming more real for us as we look at our grades and our grading practices. Male students and special education students also had a lower rate of going on and enrolling in some first-year post-secondary education.
So we've been doing some work, and there has been a slight increase to this number recently, but you can bet that district leaders are looking at this trend and focusing on ways to improve the number, because a high school diploma just simply isn't enough anymore.
Well, Connor, this has been a very fun show, and next week we are actually going to have a third co-host. Is it still a co-host with 3 people here? Throw-host. We have a very special guest. It'll be a student from Spanaway Lake High School who is interested in a career in the communication arts. We'll be talking to her. She'll be joining us for useless trivia and to tell you about a very cool upcoming episode of our podcast that she's producing. We'll see you next week.
Good stuff. See you next week, all.